Hello, everyone. I'm Nick Malosi. For those who don't know me, I'm your Senate pro tempore. As I don't know if everyone is aware, but we are currently missing a senior vice president. So in his absence, according to the code, I am the presiding officer for the time being. And so at 5:48 p.m., I will call the meeting to order. With that, do we have any other words of welcome that we would like to? Everyone knows there's food behind there. If you haven't gotten any, please free to help yourself. For the attendance, make sure you put your name and unit in the Zoom chat. There's also in room, there's been a sign up sheet that's been going around. I don't know, does anyone have that sheet with them currently? Okay. If anybody needs it, please feel free to grab it. You can also sign up at the end of the meeting. Just make sure you do it so this way you get recorded for your attendance. The agenda has been posted on Canvas, and so with that, I would like someone to move a motion to approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
I hear a motion. Do I hear a second on that?
I
Seconded
second
on
it.
the motion. Okay. Without any objection? Okay. Agenda is passed. Good job. Okay, so now what we are going to do today is we have an open forum, and tonight we have Sarah Smith coming to speak. Sarah, I will hand you this. And I'm going to mute myself.
All righty.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Please continue to eat. I will be, I guess, your entertainment while you have your dinner tonight. My name is Sarah Smith. I use she, her pronouns, and I am here coming to you from the Campus Y, also referred to as the UNCY over on main campus. I'm here to talk to you about two different things. I guess we're going to start with voting, which hopefully you're aware there's an election coming up. But I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the Campus Y, UNCY, who we are, and hopefully how you can get involved with the work that we do here on campus. Before we get started, I want to say how nostalgic I am being in this room with you all. Many years ago, I was a graduate student, not at UNC. I did do my undergrad here. I actually did my graduate work at Trinity College in Dublin, but I served as a senator for my school, and then actually stayed and did a sabbatical year and served as the vice president of our, basically our version of the Senate. So very much appreciative of your time and your service. And I hope you get the recognition you deserve, because I know it's a lot of time and energy to represent your constituents, your peers, the other students here at UNC. So just want to thank you for the time and energy you put in to represent your peers. So just wanted to acknowledge that up front. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about, hey, there's an election. Some of you may be aware that that's coming up here shortly. So I do often spend my time talking with undergraduate students. So it is very nice and refreshing to be here with graduate students. So I often start out with this question: what's on the ballot this election? I'm going to pose that question to you all. Anybody want to give me an answer? And I'm going to ask you not to say the presidential election. Go for it. Sidewalks, yes. On the local, yes, you're getting down to the nitty gritty. That's what I want to hear. All right, Samantha. Yes, yes. All right, anyone else? All right, Emma. Absolutely. Anyone? Did I see a hand maybe in the back, Margaret? Absolutely. All right. All of these answers were correct. Do you mind going on to the next slide? In fact, there are 33 different things to vote on if you are voting here in Chapel Hill, right? So I know there are probably many of you who are out of state or maybe voting in other spaces, but just to acknowledge there are a lot of things to get informed about to vote in this election. And so I like to start off that question because often people say it's the presidential election. That's what we're voting on. Yes, but also there are many down ballot races that I want to make sure folks are aware of and directly impact our lives. I'm not going to take up all the time tonight by going down each individual race, but I did want to highlight that there are some really awesome resources. If you are curious about your individual ballot, there's one I like to highlight. It's called Vote 411. It's a nonpartisan resource that you can use. QR code is up top on the presentation. I like to use it. You type in your address or where you're registered to vote. It will pull up your ballot and you can actually compare candidates and their platforms. And it'll at the end create a ballot for you so you can take it with you to vote if you're voting in person, or it will print out a ballot for you if you're voting absentee, so it'll be easier for you to copy that into your ballot. So I just wanted to share that with you up top, because I know for me, there's no way I'm going to remember 33 different people, names, positions, et cetera, when I go to vote later this month. So just wanted to highlight that. All right, we're also going to hit some key dates to remember. It is already almost the deadline to register to vote in North Carolina. Hopefully, most of you, if not all of you, if you're eligible to vote, are registered. If you need any support with that, I did bring some voter reg forms with me. So please feel free to grab those. If you need to grab some for your constituents, for any of your peers, colleagues, other folks you know, they're in the back and they're available for you. But those are to register to vote in North Carolina. October 11th is the deadline to do that. I will acknowledge and just mention here, in North Carolina, you can also do same day registration during early voting. So if you have a friend or a colleague who's like, crap, I missed that deadline, tell them to go vote early. We can take care of it there. If you are voting absentee in Orange County, so I'm going to be very nuanced in the way I speak because there's a lot of different deadlines, but if you were to want to vote absentee in Orange County, that deadline to request the ballot is October 29th. Please do not wait till October 29th to request that ballot. Go ahead and do it. You could do it now. But I did want to highlight that date. And of course, November 5th is our election day. The precinct on campus here is the Stone Center. So if you live on campus, I know probably most of you do not, but if you do live on campus, your precinct is the Stone Center. Otherwise, you have precincts throughout the county. Happy to support you in finding those if you have questions about that. Next slide, please. All right. You've probably heard tons about this. Here in North Carolina, we now require a photo ID to vote. We did the last election cycle as well, but this is the first kind of big federal election that this photo ID is required. And I am highlighting here for you all that you can use your one card. Now, there's a caveat. Currently, as we speak, your digital one card is not accepted because it is being held up in courts. So I will say, make sure you've got a printed one card or a driver's license, a passport. Any of these other identifications will be approved at your voting site. But I did want to highlight for you, your one card will be an approved form of identification to vote. Emma, did you have a question? Correct.
So if you haven't gotten your updated license yet, will they still accept the old one that's got the old address that's not expired?
If it's not expired and the picture is you, that is fine. So I actually also work as an elections official, so I can tell you from experience, all I'm gonna do is hold it up and say, that's Emma, cool, that picture matches. Now, if you were coming to me and saying, I need to move where I'm registered to vote, I would need that address to match. So you would need to bring in a piece of mail, something to prove a lease, something to prove that address is correct. But if you're just doing to say, this is who I am, I need that name and that photo to match. Great question. Thank you, Emma. Anyone else? Yeah. Yes. I don't think so. I would be very surprised if somehow that got caught. Does that make sense? If you want to really be careful, wait, give it a couple of weeks. But I don't think, I'll be honest, I don't think our technology would catch it. I'm gonna just be very transparent here. I don't think it would. And as long as you're not double voting, then I trust that you would not be double voting. Yeah, obviously. Because that's the bigger concern here. Yeah. Anyone else? Quick questions? Yeah. Yeah. So if you're registered here and you've got an out-of-state ID, I believe we can, that's a great question. I'm trying to remember what our rules are on that one. I believe if it's within a certain amount of time, we're allowed to use that. Like if it's within the first year that you've moved here, because there's a certain amount of window that you need to actually have an ID from the state that you live. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. I would say definitely, I would err on the side of caution and get that ID updated as soon as possible. But I do believe, again, when answering Emma's question, we're really looking at the name and the photo, not the address. If that, as long as it's a valid identification. Yeah.
Sarah, just one second, guys. When senators are trying to speak, there's a little button to press for the microphone. People on Zoom can't hear your questions. So if you guys could use the microphone so they can hear you on Zoom. Thanks.
Say, Emma, are you catching me? Is it on the slide behind me? Yes.
Says driver's license from another state, DC or US territory, if voter registered in NC within 90 days of
Thank you.
election.
I knew it was there. I knew it was there. Thank you. So within 90 days, I knew there was a time limit, y'all. There's so many different, like within 90 days, within 60 days, within a year. So it's hard to keep track of. But yeah, so within a certain amount of time, 90 days, yes, you can use that out of state. Anything else? Great. All right. We'll move on to the next slide. All right, early voting. So again, this is starting next week. So as soon as y'all head on fall break, we start early voting here in Orange County. So Thursday is the first day of early voting. This is the schedule. I wanted to highlight for you all a few places that I would recommend early voting. Chapel La Crosse is going to be your closest location geographically to campus. It is next to Moorhead Planetarium. Very walkable depending on where your classes are, where your offices are, where your labs are on campus. Doesn't have the best parking. I'm gonna be very honest. Does not have the best parking. So if you're on foot, if you're kind of, moving around on campus, that's an easy one to access. If you are moving around by car, I would actually recommend the library as a great place to early vote. Plenty of parking. So I'm just going to name that. I personally work at Chapel La Crosse and would love to see each of you come, but I want to recognize parking is important. So the library is a great one for that. But any of these locations are open and available for you to early vote. Next slide. All right. So if you are absentee voting and have not yet requested your ballot, these are the ways in which you can do that. And I would recommend doing that ASAP. So if you're in North Carolina, that top QR code is how you would request your absentee ballot. If you're out of state, that links you to the Secretary of State's websites, and you need to go state by state because each state is different. So I did want to go ahead and link you to that. All right, and then I think I had a friend back here, Lauren, you were looking for postage. This is going to be your best resource. If you are an absentee voter, we have a one-stop shop for you here on campus. This is for undergraduate and graduate students. You can get the postage for your ballot. You can have your photo ID copied and your ballot witnessed all in one place. This is over with our friends in Student Life and Leadership. So where Brian works, if you know Natasha over in SLL, she's the one coordinating this. So I wanted to kind of amplify the work they're doing there, and would very much recommend checking out that office and getting everything you need, because we want to make it as easy as possible for you all to vote, particularly those of you who are voting absentee, because we recognize it can be quite challenging. Any questions there? Awesome. All right. So I'm going to leave you with this related to voting. 3 things. Where am I voting? When am I voting? Who am I voting for? So those are the things I want you to be thinking about. I'm going to leave a variety of resources in the back. I've got some nonpartisan voting guides. Again, these are specific to North Carolina. So these are kind of the top of the ticket races. Obviously not all 33 ballot measures to be voted on, but the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, superintendent of public schools, those kind of things are on this, as well as information about voter ID and other things about what's on the ballot. So feel free to take copies for yourself, for your peers, constituents, whomever you feel like might need it in your life. I don't particularly want to take those back with me, so help yourself. Yeah, those are in the back for you. Before we transition, are there any other questions related to voting? Oh yeah, Lauren.
I live in Durham County. Do you have resources for the other counties too?
Absolutely. So most of like pretty much everything back there is North Carolina specific. And everything that I share with you again is North Carolina specific. So all of that is available for you. And then as far as like the Durham County, like early voting, all of that, Durham County Board of Elections, they'll have the same graphics for you. Absolutely. Anyone else? That's some great questions. Awesome. We want to make sure you all feel empowered to vote. We're here to support you. So if you have any questions, I'm going to share my contact at the end of this presentation. Happy to support. I know Elizabeth has been doing some great work supporting you all. I know Brian and Natasha over in SLL. We're all here to support you all. We want to make this as easy as possible. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. And then I'm going to start the second part of my presentation. All right, I try to jazz this one up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about a pocket of campus that I call home, which is the Campus Y. Have you all heard of the Campus Y? Anyone? Thumbs up, maybe a little bit. Hopefully for good reasons. Neil, I know you have. Hey, Neil. So we have been in the news a little bit recently, but have been around for quite some time before that. In fact, I have a timeline. I'll show you a little bit about the history of the Campus Y. But I want to talk to you about kind of a little bit more nuanced explanation of what the Campus Y is beyond just the building that exists. So if you don't mind hitting the next slide. So first of all, we'll start with where is the Campus Y? So the Campus Y is located, so I tried to do Google Maps from here to there. It is a 9-minute walk. It is diagonal from the old well if you need a landmark location. We are right next to South Building, between South and Girard Hall, if you're familiar. And if you are familiar with the Meantime Coffee Company, we are also the home of that coffee shop. I know a few of you have been there. I've seen you. Next slide. So there are kind of 4 entities within our building. So we have the physical building, which is a historical YMCA building. That is where the name comes from. It was built in 1907. And we know that it was built in 1907. The pipes, I think, sometimes feel like they're from 1907. It's a little bit creaky, but we love our building. And although we no longer have ties to YMCA or YWCA, our roots are very much still connected. The service roots of the work of the YMCA is very much tied to the work that we do now. And so I just wanted to highlight that. We do have a mutual aid pantry on the 3rd floor that is open and available for all students, not just undergraduate students. So if that's something that you or you know of other folks who would benefit from, that's available for you. We also have a free library on the 2nd floor. I wanted to highlight that as well. We are also home to the Campus-wide Student Org. This is mostly an undergraduate student organization, which is kind of an umbrella for 30+ student-run committees that all have a social justice theme to them. It could be anything from poverty alleviation, looking at the climate crisis, immigration reform, kind of across the board. And they vary from year to year. Whatever the students are super passionate about, they form a committee around, hold events, do fundraisers, raise awareness, speaker series, et cetera. And if you are passionate about those issues as well and wanted to get involved, whether that be in an organizing fashion, whether that be in a mentorship role, we would love to have you. Then we have the UNCY, which is technically the space where I work, which is the staff department. I do serve as an advisor to the student organization, but the staff department is kind of this larger entity that we do workshops, we run programs, and support student success, basically, at UNC. And so we have programs like the Bonner Leaders, Neil. Neil was in the program. We support the Global Gap Year Fellowship and a new program we just launched this fall called Democracy and Dialogue. So we have been hosting a series of dialogues, and we actually had a few grad students show up to that as well, which has been really great. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do have a student-run coffee shop in our lobby. And again, all of those proceeds go back to the student staff. And then the money, it is a nonprofit, so the money that is raised goes back into student ventures and student scholarships and fellowships on campus. The students that work there are undergraduate and graduate students. So another opportunity, if you are interested, if you're looking for some employment on campus, that is another opportunity. Mind hitting the slide. I will not make you go through this entire timeline, but I did want to give you a little history for those of you who maybe didn't go to undergrad here or were unfamiliar with kind of some of the context of the Campus Y. Again, I wanted to highlight founded 1907, and the Campus Y was very much involved in some of the really integral milestone moments of campus life throughout our history. So I wanted to highlight the founding of some of the really important offices on campus, career services, intramural sports. Like I was shocked when I found this out. I started working for the department. The bookstore, freshman orientation all have roots in the Campus Y. So basically kind of what I've learned over the years is when there has been a deficit or something missing, the students have organized, created it, and then kind of the university, kind of catches up. And then takes it over and moves on from there. So it's been kind of, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing I noticed over the years. We've have a history of dialogue starting in the 1940s. The Campus Y was definitely very much involved in the civil rights protests and integration on campus, was very much involved in the first female undergraduate students in the 60s. Cafeteria worker strikes in the late 60s, early 70s. I highlighted the Human Relations Committee and Big Buddy beginning in the 70s. Anti-apartheid movements in the 80s. So again, things that are happening more on a global scale, bringing awareness to our campus. Apple service learning actually started in the Campus Y, which I think is interesting. So just wanted to kind of highlight that a lot of these big things that are happening on campus kind of have their roots in the Campus Y. So it's a space for students to come together, to organize, to learn and to grow together. Next one. And then kind of finally, I wanted to highlight the space itself, that if you wanted to come, obviously get a cup of coffee, that there are spaces for you to hold office hours if you wanted to come and work, but also if you wanted to come and reserve a space, say you're hosting a workshop, you've got a group project you want to work on, and you need a space to hold that. And you maybe want to get out of your department building. We've got spaces that you can reserve in our building. So we have classrooms on the second floor. You reserve those through 25 Live, capacity of about 35, I would say, for those rooms. And then we have the Anne Queen Lounge. This one I think is kind of a like hidden gem, and definitely something you all should take advantage of. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but you all as grad students have access. Elaine, I'm looking at you. Y'all can get in with your one cards, right? Okay.
Request it from someone, but I can figure that out and
Okay.
share
I've
that.
seen grad students have access. Undergraduates cannot get in. This I know to be true. But if you needed to meet with students, meet with faculty, and you needed a space, it's very nice in there. It's kind of got high ceilings. And it's a nice space if you get your coffee and want to go and sit in there, middle of campus, really nice views. You'd be welcome to use that space. But you can also reserve it after 5 p.m. if you wanted to, I don't know, have a speaker come, do a documentary screening, host a dinner. That's a space that would be available for you all to reserve. There is a process. It is kind of handled by the Office of Faculty Governance, but those kind of QR codes link you to the sites where you can reserve those spaces. So I wanted to share that with you all as well. Yes, Emma.
The Anne Queen Lounge, if it's by one card access only, for those of us who do not have physical one cards nor iPhones, which have the technology for the remote unlock, how would I get in there?
Okay, so I have a follow-up question, and this is my own. I apologize for not knowing this. Androids can't use the tap technology.
Not all Android phones support the remote one card feature specifically.
Ridiculous.
It supports here's a picture of me, but I cannot, there's not even a setting to turn on to unlock a door with my iPhone.
That is ridiculous. I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I apologize for not knowing that information. I maybe have an answer or a follow-up question over here. Yeah.
They have an answer for that. So I do have an Android as well. And I went to the one card office and proved to them that my Android doesn't support their one card feature. So they just gave me a one card without having to pay for it.
There you go. Thank you for that answer. And that can also help
Okay.
you vote. So do that too. Anyone else have questions? Yeah, Omar.
I actually just want to clarify, it's not that Androids don't have the technology, it's that UNC won't support that function on
Ooh.
Android. So maybe we should ask
Okay.
UNC to support it.
Point of advocacy there. Okay. All right. Some organizing. Okay, Tyler.
Hi, so I'm a first year student here, and one thing I'm curious about is I heard that you guys had your office closed back in May. Are you guys fully operational now? And like, what would it take for that to maybe occur again?
Great question. I was wondering if anyone was going to bring that up. Yeah, we were shut down for 5 days, I think. The question was, first year, heard that we were shut down in the spring. That is accurate. We were shut down. We were not told it was happening by administration. I can speak honestly. And it was not clear to us why it was happening. And I would be lying to you if I said I was confident it wouldn't happen again. I'm just going to name that. The information we were given is that it was a security concern. I am unclear of why it was a security concern. It had something to do with the building being used over the weekend for the restrooms. But that wasn't consistent with some of the other usage that was happening around campus. Happy to talk more about that if anyone wants to have a conversation. But there are larger concerns about if it could happen again.
I know you probably don't want to talk about that the whole time, but just really quickly for a point of clarification, who made that decision to shut down the Y, if you know and are able to tell us?
My understanding was that decision was made by administration. That's the answer we were given. And we were told safety concern. I know there's a reporter in the room, so I'm trying to be careful with what I'm saying. And again, happy to chat more openly offline if anyone wants to continue this conversation. Yeah. Any other questions?
Molly, do you want to, or I'm sorry, Mandy, do you want to unmute online?
Hi, yes, thank you. I have a question related to some of the other things that I think we're getting to here. Could you tell us a little bit more about the social media post on Instagram that says from the Campus Y, we want to emphasize that the Campus Y will likely no longer be a safe space for students next week?
Are you talking about the one that went out, I think, over the weekend?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, yes. So I do want to highlight that we are 4 distinct entities. So there's the student org, and that post was made by the student organization. And I work for the staff department. So I'm going to preface everything I say with that. And that is required for me to say moving forward. And that is basically my understanding. And again, I'm speaking for the students here, was out of concern of the police presence on campus that they were told was going to be happening and did happen yesterday and throughout the week. And there was a particular presence in and around, well, they were not inside, around the Campus Y building.
Thank you. I guess, could you, so I've also, I think, and this is actually not the first time that I've heard this, but I have frequently during times of sort of unrest like we're seeing right now, heard from different people the possibility that the Campus Y is surveilled, possibly. I know that they added cameras around it. I wondered if that idea, the comment that it was not considered a safe place, if that was related to the possibility that of that. Thank you.
That's actually a really great question. I'm glad you kind of asked that specifically. My understanding was that the students were speaking specifically about the police presence, and knowing that some students feel very unsafe when they see a lot of police on campus. We have heard of concerns have been raised to us as staff of concern of, is there surveillance in our building? We have directly asked that question to administration and have been told no. That is what I can say on that. We have not found anything, but I will say some students are skeptical. And I will say, as just a person, I have noticed a lot more cameras. And I think anyone who is on campus has noticed more cameras, particularly in and around kind of the South building area, Campus Y, the Polk Place quad area.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right.
All right. Well, thank you all. I had a feeling a few of these questions would come up, but I'm glad to share space with you all. And again, if you do want to have any follow-up questions, happy to do that. My contact, if you don't mind hitting one more slide, that is our general contact. That's mine down there at the bottom. I apologize. It's a little smaller than I meant it to be. But would love to grab a cup of coffee with somebody, with any of you all, to chat more about the Campus Y, collaborating, how we can be more open and inclusive for graduate students, or to answer any of your questions. Happy to do that. So thank you again for opening your space for me this evening. Hope I didn't take up too much time, and we'll turn it back over to you all. Thanks again.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to speak right now during the open forum portion of the meeting? No? Okay. So I have.
Yes, I'm sorry. Could we just
Go
confirm?
ahead.
I'm sorry, from here in Zoom, I didn't realize so is there a reporter in the room? And if I'm new to this whole thing, so I wasn't sure if that's normal or not.
I believe there is a reporter in the room, and I can't say in my last 4 years that I recall one being present. So we welcome them. Hopefully they got some good dinner, but I don't think that's a normal occurrence in the GPSG Senate.
Do
Is there
we
any
know
other-
who they are or who they're with? I was just
Katie.
curious. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Go ahead, floor's open.
Hi, yes, I'm Sam. I'm the Director of Communications. We do have a reporter here to join us in this meeting. She's just here to observe. If you don't want to say anything, you're welcome to not say anything. You're also welcome to come have a chat with me after the meeting if you'd like to talk about this, or feel free to email me and Joanna if you have feelings you want to share.
Sarah.
Hey everyone, Brian Lackman, GPSG advisor. As per North Carolina laws, the GPSG and undergraduate student government are in accordance, and that all meetings are in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. So like all meetings are always open for anyone to come to, reporters, students, community members, you name it. So, and that's also why they're on Zoom and recorded. So.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, then I have one more second. Okay. I did receive, so I'm going to take the time to read a letter that I received regarding two of the pieces of legislation that we have before us tonight. So the letter that I've received is from Michelle Hoffner O'Connor, who is a former senior vice president in GPSG. So I'm just going to read the letter now. So these are their words. To President Pro Tempore Melosi, my name is Michelle Hoffner O'Connor, and I am a 2021 PhD graduate of UNC Chapel Hill and former vice president for the GPSG in 2018-19 and 2019-2020. I have been recently notified of a pair of resolutions to be considered tonight regarding the Chancellor and Provost of the university, and I wanted to contribute my own stance and experience in regards to the impact this legislation will have upon the functioning of GPSG. To say that these resolutions have potential to deal irreparable harm to the institutions of shared governance and the working relationship between GPSG and the UNC administration is an understatement. While we must be willing and able to criticize the administration for its real shortcomings and egregious actions against students, resolutions calling for resignation only to stand to harm the ability of GPSG to advocate for all 11,000 students, especially given that the resolution will be sent to those who are allies of those you seek to remove. GPSG's work for students is rooted in cooperation and collaboration, interpersonal relationships, sometimes entirely so. Both myself and many others worked hard to get graduate students into the room to have a voice, but this comes at the expense of building bridges with everyone, even those we necessarily do not like or respect. Once those bridges are burnt, there is no rebuilding them in short and quite possibly long term. I urge the GPSG Senate to act with tact and restraint while acknowledging the righteous anger many senators and their constituents feel in these times. GPSG is meant to represent the needs and interests of graduate and professional students and risks losing the access and cooperative relationships that make change possible. Regards, Michelle Hoffman O'Connor, PhD. Okay, so with that, if there's anyone else who would like to speak, if not, we are going to move on to the next portion of our agenda tonight, which is the go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see you. Yep.
Really quickly also, good evening. I'm Neil Sharma. I'm the Director of Academic Affairs. Just wanted to announce that GPSG has designed a short 1-minute survey to help understand how well the various schools within the university are supporting the academic and personal wellness of graduate students. So on page 6 of the Senate report, you'll see the survey. Please send this to your constituents so we can find out what to advocate for in our meetings with college leaders to improve the lives of the extended graduate family. So with that, with 6 months to go, it's an honor to serve, and please do send that survey out, and thank you again for your time.
Okay, if I haven't missed anybody else, we will move on to the next portion of our meeting, which is the Senate committee. So last month we did select committees. However, there are now 3 open seats on the committees. There's 1 open seat within oversight and accountability. Lauren Rackley has self-nominated via email for the position. Is there anybody else who would like to nominate themselves for oversight and accountability tonight? Okay, I don't think I see anybody else nominated. The other positions that are open, we have 2 open seats within travel awards. Are there individuals?
Yeah, I'd like to self-nominate for the travel award. Is that what you're asking?
Are you on any other committee, Nessa?
No.
Okay. Okay, so you self-nominated. Sorry.
Hi, so for the sake of minutes, when you speak, could you please say your name and your title unit, just so that I accurately get you down?
I would like to self.
Okay, we still have 1 open seat. Is there anyone else who would like to nominate themselves for travel awards? I can just say as the former travel awards chair, I think it's the most rewarding committee, not to disparage any other committee, but you do get to hand out money to students who are traveling for research and academic purposes. I think it's a great position to be able to help out your fellow students. So we have 1 open seat if someone would like to nominate themselves. I promise it's not terribly a lot of work. Say something. Sure, go ahead.
Hi, William Blair, unknown position at the moment. I will echo something that Katie said in a meeting when I was a senator, and something that bears saying. We will do this every Senate meeting until we have full committees. So we do need full committees. So please do sign up for travel awards. I did it over the summer with summer governance, and it is an amazing opportunity to see where people are going, what people are doing. So please do sign up.
I think I see a hand online. Go ahead, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you. John Viebach, MBA Business School. Just want to confirm, is there an opportunity for being on 2 awards or 2 committees? I'm already currently in finance.
I believe the current code is that you're only allowed to be on one committee at a time.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, well, all right, we will come back to this next meeting. So the two people who are self-nominated, is there anyone who would like to ask them any questions? If not, we can move on to the next portion. And then I believe we're going to vote on them tonight on Heal Life to confirm them to the seats. Okay. You just want to do a unit? Okay. All right, are there any objections to the two people who have nominated tonight to being on the committees? No objections? Okay, we will approve that then. Okay, so the next one that we have, as I alluded to earlier, is that we currently do not have a senior vice president who is in the executive branch, and we have had a individual who have nominated himself, and that would be William Boyer, who has nominated himself for senior vice president of the GPSG. William comes to us as a current senator who will be leaving as he takes on this role, who is also chair of the Oversight and Accountability Committee and was also on summer governance. I've had the privilege of working with him. I think he's a great candidate for this position, and I know in preparing for this meeting, he's really been organized in making sure everything was running on that. So, William, do you want to give a talk on your nomination?
Hello again. My name is William Boyer. I'm a student for the School of Information and Library Science. If you don't know where our building is, we are right next to Lenore. I was a senator last year, and I was also on the O&A committee. I think it was a very rewarding committee if anybody wants to join in the future. And I was reached out to about this position, and I really want to help out. My first goal with being a senator, being with senior vice president, whatever position I'm in, is to make sure that graduate students are advocated for, that we can do our best, be our best at UNC, and we need a position of senior vice president. Katie can't do everything on her own. Even though it seems like she can. She's a miracle worker and amazing. So my goal is to help Katie. I've already started working on code edits. That was as an O&A chair. It's surprising what you find in the code when you take a look. Some things don't make sense, but that is A-okay. And so it is my goal to make Senate run smoothly, for y'all to bring bills, bring legislation to Senate, for everybody to have a productive and frankly good time here at Senate. And I will be taking questions if anybody has it.
Go ahead, Emma.
Emma Wren, Linguistics. So I missed, are you currently serving as a senator for a unit?
Yes, I'm the senator for School of Information and Library Science. I have a co-senator somewhere in the room, in the back corner over there. But if I am confirmed tonight, I will be leaving the senator position and joining as the executive position of senior vice president.
And would there be like a snap election or something to fill that seat for your constituents?
Yes, we will be doing elections for seats that are unfilled sometime in the future. We are planning hopefully before November, but I don't want to give any hard dates. But we want, our goal is to have as many senators here as possible. And so far we are the largest Senate session ever. We have, I think last count, 82 people on my roster, and I keep getting emails saying, hey, I am not on your roster. So that is one, unfortunate. So I'm going to correct that as soon as possible. But two, that means we have had more senators than ever before. And I think we are only missing 60 senators, but that doesn't mean we have 60 units missing. It just means that in total, I think we're missing about 15 units, maybe. I can give you hard numbers later.
Any other questions? Questions on Zoom? No? Okay. For tonight's vote for senior vice president, we are going to do a roll call vote tonight. Katie, who over in the? Okay, perfect. Go ahead. Do you have a question?
Is there a reason this is being done by roll call vote?
Yeah, so this way tonight we can have a senior vice president present at our meeting as opposed to just me. So this way we have an executive branch member as well as
Gotcha. Could I make a motion to do this, to approve by unanimous consent?
So we had discussed that. One of the reasons why we are doing roll call so that this way we can actually track, we have it in the minutes. So with Heal Life, we're able to know which representative unit voted and what their vote was. So this way we're able to actually know who voted for this, to make sure every representative unit that's present is able to be represented tonight. So that's why we are doing a roll call vote. Any other questions, comments, and/or concerns I can address? Okay. Katie, are we ready?
Okay, so I'm gonna read the departments and then you say yes, no, or abstain, and you get one vote per department. So first department is American Studies.
Abstain.
Second is Anthropology. Yes. Applied Physical Sciences. Art. Yes. Biochemistry and Biophysics.
Yes.
Bioinformatics and Computational Biology.
Yes.
Biological and Biomedical Sciences. Biology.
Yes.
Biomedical Engineering.
Yes.
Biostats. Business Administration. PhD. How about MBA?
Yes.
Cell Biology and Physiology.
Yes.
Chemistry. City and Regional Planning.
Yes.
Classics.
Yes.
Communication Studies. Computer Science. Ecology. Economics.
Abstain.
Not economics.
That was ecology?
Yes, abstain ecology.
Okay. Now economics.
Yes.
English and comparative literature.
Yes.
Environmental sciences. Epidemiology.
Yes.
Exercise and sports science.
Yes.
Folklore.
Yes.
Genetics and molecular biology.
Yes.
Geography.
Yes.
Geological sciences. Global studies. Health behavior.
Yes.
Health policy and management.
Yes.
History.
Yes.
Human movement science.
Yes.
Information and library science. Law.
Yes.
Linguistics. Okay. Yes, for both. Marine sciences.
Yes.
Maternal and child health.
Yes.
Media and journalism.
Yes.
Medicine.
Yes.
Microbiology and immunology. Musicology. Neuroscience. Nutrition.
Yes.
Occupational therapy. Pathology. Pharmaceutical sciences. What was that? Okay. Pharmacology, pharmacy,
Yes.
philosophy,
Yes.
physical therapy, PA, physics and astronomy, political science,
Yes.
psychology, public administration,
Yes.
public health leadership,
Yes.
public policy,
Yes.
rehabilitation, counseling, and psychology, religious studies, romance studies,
Yes.
social work,
Yes.
sociology,
Yes.
speech and hearing sciences,
Yes.
statistics, toxicology, PhD,
Yes.
toxicology, MPS. That's it.
Thanks, Joanna. There's several votes that have been recorded online for people, so I'll let you take a look at those. I think it's unofficial, but I think we can say that that's confirmation. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So with that, William Boyer, you've now been confirmed as Senior Vice President. And I am now going to hand it off to my much taller colleague and friend.
All right, everybody able to hear me? Cool. Well, thank you all for voting. Another explanation on why we did roll call voting rather than Heal Life is due to the fun part of technology is Heal Life would have taken just as long or longer. And we also wanted everybody to get the practice of doing a roll call vote in today. It will happen in the future for whatever reason. So just wanted to let everybody get that practice done today. The next part of legislation is, I'm gonna go over here. I'll let Nick control it, that open Outlook. We have a number of items on the docket for legislation. We have 55-10, Board of Elections Seat 1, Theodore nomination. 11, Board of Elections Seat 2, Erdal nomination. Director of Employment Affairs, Kim nomination. 13, dual appointment for ACT for Solicitor General and Chief Legal Officer. 14, Solicitor General and Chief Legal Officer Sabal nomination. 15, appropriate funds from the Reserve Budget Line Act. 16, September Travel Awards funds. 17, September appropriations. 18, no confidence resolution for the Provost Chris Clements. 19, no confidence resolution for the Chancellor Lee Roberts. We are going to start off with the first one, 55-10. And
Do we have someone to introduce the bill?
I can pull it up on the laptop as well.
Yeah, I would just go ahead and open up Canvas. Probably the easiest way to do it.
Sorry, I should have had that open for you.
Go ahead. It's your laptop.
Okay, so I have 4 bills today to introduce more nominations for more positions. So we're rare feeling everything today. So the first one is my nomination for Tori Theodore to the Board of Elections. Tori is a Master of Social Work student. Her and I have had a good conversation about her previous experience working at, she attended North Carolina A&T State, and she was a student representative there and has had experience being around elections and that type of thing. And so all of these nominees were interviewed and vetted both by myself and by the Oversight and Accountability Committee. Y'all are absolutely free to ask the candidates.
I will interject before Emma. I think a number of our candidates are here tonight, either in person or on Zoom. And so please, if they are here, please do ask them questions, but know that Oversight and Accountability, who I was chair just mere moments ago, we did grill them heavily.
Emma Ren, linguistics, can you clarify exactly what do the Board of Election members do?
I've got a lot to say. No, thank you for telling me. So the Board of Elections is an independent agency that is part of sort of student government, but is separate from both groups. Any person that is elected or nominated, I should say, appointed to the Board of Elections, it's a lifetime appointment. And by lifetime, I mean as long as they're a student, not forever. And basically what this board does is manages the elections for the graduate and professional student government Senate elections and presidential elections, the undergraduate Senate elections, presidential elections, the student body president election, the homecoming elections, and any other elections that I'm not aware of that they also manage. Sorry. And there are a few members nominated from each student government so that there's representation on both. It is a very important job that makes sure that our elections run smoothly and are sort of separate and away from any interference from pesky elected officials who may want to interfere. So hopefully that's a good general overview. I'll also say, I do think that Tori is here on Zoom. So hello, Tori.
Yes, they are. Are there any other questions about this bill for Katie, for Tori? A motion to end question.
You asked her.
Oh, is there a motion to end the question?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Perfect. We are going to go to the next bill. The next bill is Board of Elections Seat 2, Erdal nomination. And I apologize if I am butchering names. Sincere apologies. Please correct me. And I will turn it over to Katie to explain this bill. It is very similar to the previous one.
Yes, so this is a nomination for the second open seat for the Board of Elections. Dennis Erdal, who is over there. Dennis comes to us previously as an undergraduate student who served for a number of years in the undergraduate student government and has now joined the dark side as a graduate student and is my nominee for this open Board of Elections seat. I think his great experience definitely knows what he's talking about. So kind of the same thing with this it's the same position. It's just another seat on that board.
Are there any questions for Dennis or for Katie? If not, we can motion to move to question. End question.
So moved.
Second, anybody?
Second.
Perfect. We are going to move over to the third bill, Director of Employment Affairs, Kim nomination, and they are also in Zoom. Katie?
Yes. Okay. So this nomination is for the Director of Employment Affairs, which is a member of my cabinet. The Director of Employment Affairs is generally in charge of advocacy and projects related to employment, such as RAs, TAs, GAs, that type of thing. Obviously, it can get into a lot of different topics. Jenna is a graduate student, also an international student, which I think is going to be a wonderful perspective to have on the cabinet, especially in this position in particular. Jenna and I have had a lot of conversations about in her interview and otherwise about, you know, kind of her visions for the position, for obviously filling in much later in the year. So her visions for the remainder of the year and the advocacy work that I think that we do that's super important. So.
Are there any questions for Katie or Jenna? If not, I will motion to move to end question. Do I hear a nomination? I hear a motion.
Move to end discussion.
Second.
Perfect. We're going to move to the fourth piece of legislation, the Dual Appointment Act for Solicitor General and Chief Legal Officer. Katie?
Yes. Okay. This bill is a Band-Aid bill for our code. So we have two positions in student government, one titled the Solicitor General, one titled the Chief Legal Officer. Both of these positions have not been filled as long as I am aware or have been in student government. The chief legal officer serves as the chief legal counsel for GPSG. They would be someone that would sit in Senate meetings or in the Rules and Judiciary Committee and basically help determine constitutionality and interpretations of the code. It's kind of like a position where they can make quick decisions and allow us to sort of continue on with the business without having to necessarily go to the Supreme Court every time we have a question about code interpretation. So that's the Solicitor General. We also have the Chief Legal Officer, which is a position that serves as the legal counsel for GPSG in situations of external lawsuits. So let's say that the GPSG or the president or somebody within GPSG is sued in the student Supreme Court. The chief legal officer is the person that would represent them in that suit or in that case. We do very, very, very infrequently do we have cases go to the Supreme Court. I think there has maybe been one in the past few years. And so you can imagine that in a person in that position, when you say, hey, can you sign up for this? You may have nothing to do the entire year. It is very challenging to fill this position. So what this bill does is it just allows specifically for the position of Solicitor General and for Chief Legal Officer for those two positions to be jointly appointed. The same person may jointly be appointed in both positions, where otherwise you're not allowed to duly appoint someone in two positions.
Thank you, Katie. Are there any questions?
Margaret Hoke, Biostatistics. I just wanted to note the bill that's on Canvas is not the bill sent by Rules and Judiciary to the Vice President. There were a couple of superficial edits. They were friendly amendments, I believe, which should be in the email. Just because I noticed, because it says recommended by Oversight and Accountability, and I definitely corrected that. So.
This should be. Can you scroll down a little bit? Is this the nominate? This is the bill that I received from my email. I can quickly go back and look. Katie?
Can I recommend a motion to table this bill to the end of the bills, or just, maybe after the next one, just to fix that, and we can keep going and then we'll come back to this one?
Yes, we also might need a motion to table the next bill as it is to elect this person in both positions, but we can get to that. Do I hear a motion for that?
So moved.
Second? Perfect. Do I hear a motion to table the next bill before Katie describes it? As I don't know if we can. Katie, sure, if you wanna explain it, let's go.
Okay. This is the act to approve that person, as we previously discussed, to both the positions of Solicitor General and Chief Legal Officer. Um, sorry. I think that, like I said, I think that it's really important that we have both of these positions filled, and I'm really, really excited that we have found someone who is interested in joining. So Sabina joins us as a first year graduate student, I believe. And we've had quite a few conversations about the fact that since this position has not been filled in multiple years, it's still a little questionable exactly like what it's going to look like on the day-to-day to serve in these positions. And so we've had been able to have a couple of conversations now, and I feel very confident that Sabina has the experience and background and interest in looking at code, interpreting, considering law in that way, but also in, has excitement and interest in, turning this position into something that is going to be kind of a more long-term thing that we can do in the future. That's pretty short and sweet, but happy to take questions. And I believe that Sabina is also on Zoom as well.
We got your bill. So we are going to throw it up on Canvas and everything as soon as possible. Are there any questions for Katie? Is there a motion to end discussion or a motion to table this bill?
Sorry.
Go ahead, I'm on.
I'm so sorry. This is Callista Strauss from the law school. I just wanted to clarify. The nominee is not a law student and does not have legal experience.
That's correct. And it is not a requirement of the position or any of our judicial positions. Many, if not, I think all of our judicial positions are not filled by law students.
Okay, but did you say part of this role is to read and interpret the code?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do I hear a motion? Are there any more questions for Katie for our nominee for RNJ who drafted this? Or Katie who drafted this, went through RNJ, did it? Are there any further questions? Or is there a motion to end discussion or motion to table?
I was going to motion to end discussion.
Second?
Second.
Any objections? Seeing none, we'll go to number 15. The appropriate funds from the Reserve Budget Line Act. And I will turn it over to Fernando or somebody representing this bill.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nick Malosi, HPM. So this is a bill to take money that we currently have in our reserve fund. We've had a sizable reserve fund, due to us not spending as much during the COVID years. Due to that, we have a large surplus within the budget. This bill is advocating to take some of that money out of reserve and allocating it to several different parts of GPSG, namely social programming, travel, appropriations, and increasing as well the town hall funding. It's very important to pass this bill since several of the committees, namely travel and appropriations, were not allocated enough money during the last budget. And so due to this, they're operating an extremely limited budget. I can just speak for travel on this one. Historically, that is a very large low for us. Last year, our budget was $35,000 and we were only able to fund about half or so of the amount of travel awards that we received. By increasing our budget, it would be able to help travel fund more people. And in the scenario of academic travel, it has gotten more expensive to do so. Conference registration fees, hotels, flights, all that stuff is more expensive. So with that, we would like this bill to be passed so this way we can increase funding for these groups. And I'm happy to take any questions you guys have on that. Go ahead.
Ellen Atterbury from Romance Studies. Could you explain the table and what those groups, where the money is going for those groups? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for social programming, I know that's going to increase GPSG's involvement and engagement with the student body as well. You know, the Katie this year did a lot of stuff at the beginning of the year, trying to get outreach. I know just as exiting travel awards chair that traditionally the first semester or the first round of cycle one for travel awards, we normally get like 20 to 30 applications. This year, because of Katie's visibility on it, we received over 100 applications for it. So appropriations goes directly to student groups that, you know, come to the Senate and ask for us to help fund their whatever their social engagement is. That Samantha Beck could speak to that on kind of what they do, but you'll see one of their bills tonight as well. Specifically for travel, it's just to allow us to fund more people to go for, you know, we fund research travel, we fund travel for conferences, we fund travel for professional development. So those would be some of the things that it goes for. Town hall, that would be the other one, because we're now able to have, if you want 2 town halls within the year, people are going to want to be able to provide some type of food or something for their constituency. So that would be where the additional money is going to. Otherwise, this money's sitting in the reserve fund and we're not doing anything with it. And we need to do something with this money. And I can't think of a better group of people to give it to than right back to our constituencies as well. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Murabi, bioinformatics and computational biology. I just wanted to ask, should these funds not be completely used by their committees or what they're being appropriated for? Do they go back into the reserve fund?
Yeah, they would, but I can tell you historically comes travel and appropriations, we spend every penny we get and we're pretty tight on tracking. I know as travel awards chair last year, I tracked pretty tightly on who was actually getting money from us and how much they actually requested, because whatever pennies they didn't spend, I put back into somebody else's travel award. So I will say the vast majority of the money that we're going to appropriate tonight would be probably used by the committees or town hall and whatnot. But yeah, if we don't spend it all, then yeah, it would go in theory back to the reserve. Any other questions? Anyone on Zoom have a question? Okay, well, I'll let someone call a motion to motion the question on this.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Sounds good. The next bill that we will talk about is September Travel Awards. And I did take a look through these, and I will just say this before I turn it over, probably to Nick again, because Fernando's not here. There was 109 submissions to Travel Awards, and the top 18 were chosen. This is amazing. So I'll turn it over to Nick.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak about this as well. So like I said, Travel Awards this year received a historical large amount of applications for cycle one. So with that, you know, they went through and they graded everyone. And with that, they made the recommendation. And I think it was, yeah, what was it? 18 applications is the amount that they're funding with it. So with that, I think you can see within here their budget as well. Otherwise, they don't have any funding for the remainder of the year. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions on Travel Award. Go ahead.
Emma Wren, linguistics. What were the general qualifications used to choose who got funded since this was so competitive?
Yeah, so within the GPSG Travel Award, there's a rubric that's posted online. And just an aside on this one here, if anyone recommends their constituents to apply for the GPSG Travel Award, please have them read the rubric and make sure that A, they're reading the rubric for the right type of travel. If they're going for a conference, they're going for research. The rubric is what everybody is scored based upon, and that rubric we've had in place since, I want to say 2017 or 18, so it's not like it's a new rubric. It's been around for a while. Based upon the scoring of the rubric, then each senator scores each application individually, and then they meet together then to discuss what were the scores on it, if there's any discrepancies, anything like that. So with that, you know, that's then how they're scored, and then based upon where everyone's scored and how much money is available for travel, that's who determines who gets what. Any other questions? Okay. Is there a motion on the question?
Moved.
Second on the question?
Second.
Thank you. The next bill, 55-17, will be the September appropriations bill. Nick's pulling it up right now. And this is an act to fund October appropriations requests. Who do I turn this over to, Nick? Is it Sam?
Hello. So we had 6 requests for the month of September, for a total of a little over $13,000. To try and keep in budget, we recommended 3 in full and 3 for partial, for a total of a little over $5,000. So, yes.
Are there any questions?
Is there a motion to end discussion?
Moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. We are going to go to 55-18, the no confidence resolution for the provost, Chris Clemens. And I will turn it over to Sasha.
Thank you. I do have, before we begin, I do have a friendly amendment. I have 10 senators who wanted to be co-sponsors. Should I send that to you all? Okay.
Yeah, if you have 10 senators, that is no confidence.
Okay, I will do, let me do my little spiel and then I could. Do consider that a friendly amendment. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'll go ahead then, I'll send it in a bit, but I'll go ahead and introduce the resolution. This resolution was authored by myself and my fellow Senator Nessa from Toxicology. I will talk about the resolution a little bit, then I will address some of the concerns that President Heath and the concerns that were brought at the beginning of the session as well. But the first resolution we're looking at, I believe, -18 is no confidence in Provost Chris Clemens. This resolution primarily addresses a lot of concerns that have been spoken about with students, faculty, and multiple members of the community. That Chris Clemens is simply unfit for his job. I do want to highlight a couple of the reasons why I think it is imperative that we take serious action and call what's happening at UNC for what it is. One of the arguments, obviously, the disproportionate response that happened as a result of the protests in April. And another, I think there are multiple actions that have been problematic, but I think this goes back to when Chris Clemens was appointed as the provost, which was very controversial. And you can see in the references in the resolution, Provost Clemens was, the board pressured the chancellor at the time, Guskowitz, to hire him because he was their political pick. He's very much an ideologue with a partisan agenda. But we also pointed out some of the things that are very clear that make him extremely unqualified and he should not be in this job. One of them is that he played a central role in secretly recording a UNC professor at Keenan Flagler and then used that as an excuse to fire that professor based on things that that professor said in class. That's in the resolution, there's the article. And now that professor is suing UNC, it's going to cost UNC hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, to defend this case. And Provost Clemens likes to pretend that he's all about discourse and whatnot, and then he attacks faculty for speaking their mind. I also, he likes to use that excuse of that's the same excuse that he used for the establishing of the new school at UNC, the School of Civil Life and Leadership. That school has, the way it was done, and the faculty council has been very adamant that they have skirted all rules regarding shared governance. And, this brings me, the former president, I can't remember their name, who Senator Malocci read their statement, they brought up shared governance, and we're doing this because shared governance is on the line. Because Provost Clemens is throwing, he's just bulldozing any ideas of shared governance at UNC. I also want to bring up another point that's mentioned in the resolution is that Provost Clemens was the faculty advisor for a white supremacist group here on campus called Youth for Western Civilization. When he was confronted by the media about this, he said that he had not read their national charter and he was just trying to promote a diversity of thought. Again, same excuse, but now to promote to promote really supremacist ideology on campus. I do think there's a lot of talk at UNC about Lee Roberts and Chancellor Lee Roberts' effect in terms of driving the university in a partisan direction and through a political ideology. But Provost Clemens has already been doing that work for several years now since he was made provost, I believe, in 2020. And he is very much someone who's driven by political ideology and a partisan agenda. I do want to address some of the concerns that President Heath elaborated on in the memo she sent before the meeting. I understand that President Heath has a mandate and has a responsibility to advocate for students and fundamentally work with folks like Chris Clemens. And I do value President Heath's leadership and all the work she's been doing. And I definitely do not want this resolution to affect that relationship. And I understand the need for President Heath to distance herself from this resolution. I think that's wholly understandable. I would like to point out that President Heath was at the SOGAPS meeting where this resolution was passed unanimously and provided some feedback then. And I also would like to add that fundamentally what's happening at UNC today is extreme, and not taking a stance is capitulation. Not taking a stance that is firm means that this is normal. We are normalizing it, and we must take a stance today. We must be the conscience of this campus. I know there are other efforts. I've been talking to undergrads about passing similar legislation in the undergrad Senate. I'm also talking to some faculty. There are some murmurs about doing something similar. I think faculty is going to be a lot tougher to get something like this passed. But I also want to address another point in President Heath's memo, which is that we can write resolutions condemning the actions that they've been doing and asking them for change. But we've written resolutions before that just get wholly ignored by administration. This is a stance that's made to be firm for a good reason. Because, think about what we talked about today when, I can't remember their name, but the person who came here to speak on Campus Y, on behalf of Campus Y, you could tell in their tone that what's happening at UNC is not normal and that there are long-term effects that we need to be doing everything we can to stop. I'm not saying that this is a resolution is what's going to stop it. Obviously, this is at the end of the day a symbolic vote. But I also want to remind everyone in the room that the constitution for the student government at UNC also maintains a separation between the powers of the legislative branch and the executive branch. President Heath was very respectful of that during the SOGAPS meeting. And made it very clear that she respects that relationship. Obviously, President Heath is entitled to her opinion, but we must take a stance. And yeah, happy to answer any questions about the bill.
Do I hear any questions, either on Zoom or in person? Omar?
Omar Marabi, Bioinformatics and Computational Biology. First, I want to echo your outrage, and I agree that a lot of the things that are happening here at UNC are not normal and are not okay, and I'm equally outraged. But I guess my question to you is, you've said that this resolution is purely symbolic and that the administration has ignored resolutions before. So I guess what's the plan? What is the point of passing a resolution that the administration is going to basically ignore, that may put the graduate student government at further odds with the government, especially without the support of the undergraduate government? Yeah.
Hashem, economics. No, that's, I do understand what you're saying. Today, there are 3 journalists in the room covering this topic. If the resolution was not a no confidence vote, those journalists would not be here today. Because this is such a monumental thing to do. Yes, obviously we have no authority to actually remove or make them resign, but this is part of bringing attention to the issue among North Carolina voters, among members of the community, among people at UNC. You know, as I was talking to folks about this resolution, whether it be other senators and whatnot, a lot of people actually didn't realize who Chris Clemens is and the fundamental role he plays in this partisan takeover of UNC. So I think it's also about bringing awareness. And to be completely frank with you, something like a vote of no confidence is fundamentally something that is going to catch headlines, is going to start a conversation, and it is something that will definitely have some impact. Obviously, it's not the, you know, we need to be doing more work to try to change this, the pressure that's happening against UNC from a lot of different forces, and to maintain this institution's independence.
Ren, linguistics, to Omar's point and to your point, Hashem. So creating visibility is well and good, but the chancellor and the provost are both not, you speak about making this visible to voters. Neither of these are elected by the voters. The people who appoint them are not elected by the voters. What difference effectively does it make if you make this aware to the voters who are 2 or 3 levels removed from appointing any of these people? What is your plan with this?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So a few years ago, the process for choosing the chancellor was changed here at UNC, in the UNC system as a whole. And it used to be a lot more democratic, a lot less susceptible to influence from ideologues. And then they changed the rule because of elected officials that are elected in the state legislature. So there is a very direct link in how the governance of UNC is done and how the state legislature acts. So it is fundamentally, and also it's not just about voters, it's also about members of the community and bringing awareness to them. At the end of the day, that's the point of any symbolic vote that we pass. And we've passed them in the past, and that hasn't, you know, forbade us from that in the past. But the point is that this resolution must take a firm stance that does not normalize what's happening. You know, part of the discourse, if someone in 5 years is at UNC when we're all gone and they're searching something about Chris Clemens because he did something weird, they can see that there was a discussion that this is not normal. But if someone in 5 years is looking back and doesn't see that we took a stand, then it's like, oh, well, this partisan takeover of UNC is normal. And I think that's something that we really should be keeping in mind.
Go ahead in the back.
Yeah, this is Jacob from sociology. I agree with the resolution, and I believe that we as graduate students cannot be silent as the current administration leads UNC down this clearly destructive path. That's not only harming us, but also harming undergrads, faculty, workers, the university as a whole. And there are so many examples of this that are listed in the resolution and more from the School of Civic Life and Leadership to the police brutality, to everything that's been going on this week with the police all around campus, the checkpoints, the locked doors. And I think that this is just the beginning of further repression and the intensified surveillance, the ending the student-run honor court, just a general sort of takeover of the university. And we're clearly in this atmosphere of fear and repression, and it's coming straight from Chris Clemens' office. And I also want to address like that one other question about like why do this? Our resolutions do matter. We are a representative body, and we are the closest thing to a democratic institution that students have. And it is our obligation to speak up and to step up right now in this moment. And a symbolic resolution can have a material force when it moves people and when it inspires people to take further action. So I don't want to let people think, oh, this is just purely symbolic, it won't do anything. It will do something. It will spark more change that will happen. And I know someone earlier mentioned that from the previous GPSG leader that this will hinder our ability to make change. And I actually think that that is misguided. We can sort of see the results of that current strategy to appease administration, and it hasn't led anywhere other than to right now, where all those bad things that I previously mentioned. And so I actually think that this will spark further change, and that this will lead to further momentum. And I just think that continuing the status quo is untenable. Like they're slowly slowly but surely trying to take over and dismantle the university as we know it. And we have to make a vocal stand condemning this. People are looking to us for leadership, and this resolution will make it public how grad students feel about the current administration's path led by these two figures. And yeah, I don't actually have a question. I just want to say that.
Do you want to respond to that?
I do. I think the senator from sociology, Jacob, has made an interesting point, which is that the retaliation bit. If this is the kind of administration that's going to retaliate against grad students for passing a no confidence resolution, then you're making your point for us that this is an ideologically driven administration that only care about their goals and not the well-being of the institutions. We're a fundamental part of this institution, and screwing us over is not conducive to the health of this institution. So if you think that they would retaliate, then it's actually more imperative that we take a stance, because it's not normal. That's not how a university administration should be behaving towards its students. And we should not be normalizing this. I know I'm saying this, I sound like a broken record, but this is not normal. And by voting against it, if you do vote against this today, you are normalizing this.
Yep. Hi, Mandy, go ahead, unmute.
Hi, thank you so much. Well, actually, I think the two previous senators somewhat beat me to the punch, but I wanted to address, yes, and President Heath's memo and the additional memo that was shared with us, that indeed that concern about retaliation, that concern about the loss of relationships. I know that I'm repeating what was just said before me, but that solidifies, that confirms all of the reasons why I personally believe that this resolution is important and necessary. And quite frankly, whether it's symbolic or not, I think that this is a powerful moment to make sure that we are where we want, that we are sorry for the cliche, but on the right side of history, defending academic freedom, defending the values that are expressed in the resolution. I'm sorry, that's all I have to say, but thank you. And I support this resolution.
Okay, I have Tyler, Yasmin, and Caitlin next up. So Tyler, go ahead.
You, Tyler West, epidemiology. Just a point of order first and foremost. Are we currently in a period of questioning still? And if so, can I motion to a period of debate and discussion so we can be talking about more supporting and opposing this?
Yeah, you can go ahead and motion it for discussion. Is there a time limit you'd like to put on discussion?
I would say 15 minutes was a good start.
Okay, there's a motion for discussion for 15 minutes. Is there a second on the motion? Motion is seconded. Any objections? No objections heard. 15 minutes starting from now. Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and start off with a point of inquiry for President Heath. After reading your memo, one thing I am still in question of is what exactly your concerns are over on this legislation. First, I guess this one in particular, are you against, or not necessarily against, but are you worried both clauses towards the end could have significant repercussions for us, or are you more worried about the call to resign instead of the vote of no confidence? I know that because we have no power, the vote of no confidence is more arbitrary, but I was just curious if you feel like that is something that could remain in this legislation if the other were taken out, and you would have yours have a change of heart because of this. Thank you.
So I'll go ahead and say I really don't intend to make any more statements about this today, because this is y'all's bill. Like I'm the president, like y'all are voting. I'm having to answer questions. So I'll kind of try to answer your question, but like I said, I'm not going to be a part of this discussion because I think this is y'all's discussion. So the question being is like, what part of the statement basically is my concern. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, if I could just reiterate it, it would be, do you find that both clauses to take action for cause concern, or was there one that was more significant than the other that caused your concern?
So my concern is it's the whole thing. I mean, it's not one section. It's the concept of a vote of no confidence and the weight that that holds, and the fact that this would be specifically an independently graduate and professional student government making this statement over where normally, I should say normally, that's not fair, but often when this has been done historically, it is done in conjunction with a group of people and all of the different parts of shared governance, and not sort of just one by themselves. And so that I have other concerns I'm not going to talk about that, like with some specifics, but if we're just talking about overarching, like in general, that's the idea.
We're gonna go with Yasmin then.
Yep, Yasmin, you're up next.
Hi, this is Yasmin Sharifi, Marine Sciences. I just wanted to, I support this resolution, and I wanted to address some of the concerns that have been raised about the resolution. So I'm hearing folks say two things. One, that they think this is symbolic, so it could have no effect. And simultaneously, I'm hearing people say that this could have catastrophic effects for the relationship of the Senate with administration. And those two concerns don't make sense together. So either our voice as a Senate has impact and consequence, even if that's symbolic, or it doesn't. If it has impact and consequence, then we should use it to voice the legitimate concerns we have. And this is a democratic body. And as a democratic body, this is really a matter of freedom of speech. We shouldn't fear retaliation for voicing the legitimate concerns we have. And that's fundamentally the premise of GPSG as a body. So I'm concerned to hear other senators seem to question the value and validity of using our voice in this body for that. And then the other point just follows from that if we're so concerned about the effect this will have, then that proves the point that it's not merely symbolic, that what we say does matter. If we're so afraid that it's going to somehow harm our relationship with the administration. I think Jacob and others have made the point clear that fear of retaliation itself proves the need for us to support such a resolution.
Go ahead, Caitlin, you're up next.
Yes, hi, good evening. I'm Caitlin Homeyer, representing mathematics. First, I would like to thank President Heath for speaking against these two resolutions. When I first found out about these resolutions on Sunday afternoon and read them through, I also became extremely concerned about them. And aside from my personal disagreement with the content and viewpoint of the two resolutions, I also share President Heath's concerns about the wording and nature of the resolutions, and I do not believe that they are beneficial or contribute in any meaningful way to the dialogue between the graduate student body and UNC administration. Furthermore, based on President Heath's memo, it is my understanding that these resolutions were proposed and considered without gathering input from other university government bodies. And based on this information, this strikes me that the primary issue that both resolutions seek to address, which is promoting transparency, democracy, and cooperation in university governments, are kind of belied by the means by which these resolutions were pursued. And ultimately, I believe that concerns about UNC's lack of interest in graduate student input can be addressed in a more productive and respectful manner. On a slightly different note, several individuals here this evening have noted concerns about what they characterize as the ideological takeover of the university. And I'd like to kind of offer a different perspective on that and point out that such an ideological takeover already has happened within the US university system. but it is of a left-wing political nature, not a right-wing one. It is extremely well known that a pervasive and extreme left-wing bias exists within academia. For example, a recent survey of several UNC academic departments revealed that there is not a single Republican professor in those departments. Yet I hear no outrage and see no outrage about this particular ideological dominance of both the UNC system and also the US university system as a whole. However, that is a bit of a tangential issue to the point of discussion today, but I did want to make a note of that. Ultimately, considering the nature of these resolutions and the very short time frame we have had to consider them, I don't think it's good policy for us, the senators, to decide how to vote on these bills without giving ourselves adequate time to reflect on our positions and to potentially gather input from our constituents. Speaking for myself, having these bills given out late Sunday afternoon with voting, to begin today, seemed like a very short time frame to reflect on these motions and to consider how to respond to them. And in the meantime, all of us have really only had a time frame to kind of consider the bills from the perspective of the bill writers and the perspective of the sources cited, without really much time to research the issue or to potentially hear different perspectives. And so kind of in consideration of this point that we've been really discussing here this evening about really supporting transparent, representative, and democratic university government, I think that giving our senators time to consider all perspectives and to reflect further on these matters is an important step in that direction. So I would like to move at this time to lay the motion on the table.
The motion has been for tabling. Is there a second on the motion?
Yep.
Motion is seconded.
Are there any objections?
Objection.
All right, there's an objection. We will now
Objection,
call the
yeah.
roll.
Now call roll.
Yeah, we have to call the roll vote now, since we've,
Yeah,
you want to do a hand vote? Okay.
let's do a hand vote, and if it's unclear, then we will have to go to roll call, which will take more time.
What is the motion on which we're voting?
The motion is to table the bill, and Caitlin, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is there a specific time you would like to motion it for?
Under the Roberts rules as laid out for the procedure given to us for GPSG, the postpone action until an unspecified time is the motion to lay the motion, the move to lay the motion on the table, which is what I am proposing here.
So it's for an indefinite amount of time. Okay, so the motion has been called, seconded. There's a question. So now all those in favor of the motion, including those on Zoom, please raise your hands.
And keep them up high so we can count them.
Correct.
Yeah. Higher, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. I see 7. All right, you can lower your hand.
Okay, everyone lower your hands on Zoom. All those who are opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, I would say that this is clear that the nays have it.
Are there any abstentions after everybody lowers their hands? Seeing
No
none,
abstentions.
we will continue in the order. Next was Hashem.
I'd like to move to limit the speaker time to 1 minute per speaker.
Do I hear any objections?
I'm sorry, could you
Okay.
repeat the statement? I could not hear it on Zoom.
The senator from economics motions to limit speaker time to 1 minute per person.
I object to that.
There's an objection to the motion. Yeah, there
Yeah.
wasn't a second to the motion, though.
Was there a second first?
I'll withdraw.
Motion has been withdrawn. Okay, so with that, we're back to discussion time. According to my clock, we have 5 minutes left of discussion time on that.
You were next, Hashem.
Thank you. There's a lot to address. I think fundamentally, we object to the takeover, the ideological takeover of the university, regardless of which side it comes on. We value independent thought and independent academics and the freedom of academia. And I think almost everyone in this room agrees on that. It's really a question of tactics. And in the meeting, in the SOGAS meeting that President Heath was in, President Heath did not express any concerns at the time. I think, maybe the strategic concerns that were brought up later on maybe weren't as salient then because the resolution was only introduced that morning. And President Heath has been very forthcoming and has expressed her concerns to me. And I respect that, but I would like to point out, and I'm not implying anything about President Heath's motivations, but fundamentally, it's a question of tactics that we're talking about. And I do understand that President Heath would like to be distanced from this resolution for very valid reasons. I also would like to add that the resolution was passed in SOGAPS, I think about 10 days ago. It is not up to me to make sure it's transmitted to everyone. And I also really find it troubling that there's the implication that other points of view are not being heard when points of views are literally being heard right now. So I think that's pretty absurd. I'll leave it at that.
Katie would like to respond, then I can also respond to something else that was said.
Yeah, I just want to respond. I think generally we try not to comment about other people's intentions when it comes to comments in decorum. I will just say to reply to that, the bill was received by SOGAPS the same day of the meeting. We read the bill in the meeting, there was no pre-meeting time. And so there was no time to read it and analyze it beforehand. And so any lack of comments on my part was not due to not having any thoughts on it. It was due to, I had just seen it 30 seconds prior and was reading it for the first time. And I think that was probably true of it would be true of anyone in there who just saw the bill. So I just wanted to say that.
And I also want to respond to the statement that it was posted very late and senators didn't have time. We posted it as soon as we received all the bills for this legislation. So we couldn't post it until we received all the bills. Next, we have Elaine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Elaine, you are next. I'm sorry.
Hi, Elaine, Vice President of Advocacy and Governmental Affairs. More a point of clarification. I think it was Jasmine that brought up that there was a conflicting, either this resolution means nothing, but they'll retaliate. Our shared governance is not codified, right? The faculty have had issues with that. They're working towards that, certainly. So that's why it can feel like our resolutions sometimes are yelling into a void. It is what it is. I love that we're all still here and we're very passionate. The part that they could pull the rug out from under us, though, is our role as a university-sponsored organization, which gives us the ability to manage our own student fees. So that's a delegated authority from the chancellor. It's not a written codified power that GPSG, Senate, executive, and multiple other student organizations have on campus. This is different from registered student organizations, though. So we're kind of at a step above. We have a little more delegated authority to us, which hopefully that just adds some context and some clarification on those kind of dueling responses.
Go ahead, Senator.
Yeah, Ellen Reisenberg, bioinformatics and computational biology. I just want to address a couple of points that have been made. So first, regarding the lack of a plan. When we overwhelmingly passed the divestment resolution last semester, we didn't have a so-called plan. We were just doing the right thing and speaking out, and we were one of many groups around the country increasingly and publicly voicing our opposition to UNC's investments. And that was exemplary of the changing tide of public opinion, and that is important, and that is part of an overall plan. And then next, regarding the relationship with admin. So the administration has ignored us when we have tried to have grad student representation on the search committee. They ignored us throughout the search process with the listening sessions where nobody from the search committee except for the student body president showed up. They clearly had no intention of engaging with us at all. So I think it's just important to acknowledge where we are now when we talk about how this will affect our relationship with the administration.
Next,
Go ahead, Senator.
My name is Oyedi Kachi, DK Public Health Leadership in Practice. I just want to make two comments about this. First is the timing of this motion because I received it yesterday, late yesterday evening. And to give the benefit of doubt to those that actually confided in me to be their representative in the Senate, I believe it's not enough time for us to really go through this. I believe my vote in the Senate is not just the vote of Onyedikachi, but the vote of my constituency. And I want it to be considered that way across board. I understand we are representatives, but you should know that you're carrying the mandate of your constituency, and it's important to carry them along. Secondly, this is a very wonderful motion. I went through it and I see the genuineness of the motion and everything in it. And I stand for the right thing and I stand to protect the rights of the students. But in conflict resolution, it's important to be certain that you've explored all non-confrontational means to this. Have we sent a delegation from the Senate to them? Have we sent maybe the executive board? Have we done all these constructive patterns, and yet with no resolution before we resort to this? It's just important for us to put it out there that if these non-confrontational methods have been probably sought after, and yet we don't get a response, then we know that we have the right to do whatever we want to do and be justified while doing that. So these are the two important things I want to drop. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Omar, go ahead, you're next.
We let it run while we were doing points of order.
So we have about 2 more minutes left because we were doing the motions. I didn't consider that part of the discussion time. But if you like, you can motion to end discussion anytime.
Point of order.
Yeah.
There's folks on Zoom that have been waiting to speak.
I think there was one person that I had saw online, and I think
Yeah,
they
I
said they
saw-
were going to withhold their comment for the time period.
Omar Marabi, bioinformatics and computational biology. I would like to echo what my colleague just said about that we represent the students, and that I think my prerogative is to protect the students from potential retaliation. And I understand that the fact that there might be retaliation is potentially a reason why we would want to vote on this. However, like my other colleague said, we have a lot of power in how we spend our budget. If that is stripped away from us, we lose a lot of that power. And I do not know if it is worth giving up on these powers that we have for a no confidence resolution, especially because this does seem like a bit of a nuclear option. It is very much, it seems a bit scorched earth. We could, again, like my colleague mentioned, send a delegation or even pass a resolution that is critical of the administration's actions, but does not explicitly call for anyone to step down.
Thank you.
Thanks. Alexander, I think you had a question, or?
Do you have a motion or do you have a question? Okay.
And I'd say keep it short because then we're out of time.
It was just a point of order for the vice president to speak a bit more loudly, please.
Oh, I will do that. Sorry, a little bit soft-spoken.
Okay, as of right now, guys, we are out of time on the motion. So unless there's a motion to extend discussion, I believe we have to motion this question, then we go to the next bill. So
I'd like to motion,
extend?
I would like to motion to extend.
Okay, there's a motion. Mandy, is there any time frame you would like to extend it to?
10 minutes.
Okay, an additional 10 minutes. Is there a second on the motion?
I have an objection.
Okay.
I'm sorry, is there a second on the motion?
I second it.
Motion is, okay, motion seconded. Now, are there any objections?
Objection.
Objection.
Okay,
We're gonna do a handful. Sorry.
we will raise our hands for the votes. All those who are in favor of the motion, which is to extend discussion by 10 minutes, at this time, please raise your hands in person and on Zoom.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'm sorry, could you repeat what we're voting on?
Yep, right now the motion is to extend discussion for 10 minutes. All those in favor of extending discussion for 10 minutes, raise your hands.
I see 17, 18, 19, 4. Make sure you're raising your hands high, please. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, all those who voted, put your hands down. The last two online.
Kristen and Senator Matthews, if you could lower
Yeah,
your hand.
Senator Matthews and Vera, could you lower your hands? Okay, all those who are opposed to extending discussion by 10 minutes, please raise your hands.
1, 2, 3, 4. Please raise them high, please. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. Are there any abstentions? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so based on this, the motion now fails on it. So is there a motion on this bill to either put it to question for vote, or is there a motion to end this?
Second?
Second.
Second on the motion of the question. Any objections in the motion of the question? Hearing none, we will move on to the next bill, which is 55019.
You can go ahead, Hashim.
Here, Hashem, I'll give you the mic for this one. Might make it a little easier.
Okay, this is a similar bill. Again, this was passed unanimously by SOGAPs. It addresses, it calls for the same thing as the previous bill, with, somewhat different reasoning. But it also highlights the opaqueness and the undemocratic process that that has happened in the selection of Lee Roberts as chancellor. I also would like to point out, since this has been brought up, is that this was, I believe, posted on Sunday. I think that was enough time for people to ask their constituencies how they feel about this resolution. But I also understand that maybe that's too short of a time. But I know I've seen some people who already did talk to the constituencies and have gotten feedback. But let me talk about the bill specifically. It addresses, the same concerns about the disproportionate response and violence against student protesters. It also speaks about Chancellor Lee Roberts' lack of qualifications that are pretty much standard in any R1 research university, which is having a PhD or having a university research experience or having university administrative experience. He has none of those, which I think highlights the idea that this was fundamentally a political decision, not a decision that was intended to help the university achieve its goals and improve the way it is. There's also been concerns about Lee Roberts's conduct when he was the budget, I can't remember the name of the position, but like for the state, where he was involved in what seems to be very questionable quid pro quo budget deals that are still being considered and litigated. Yes, we talked about the selection process and how the university began, the selection process for those who weren't here, who are first years. The selection process did not have a single graduate student on the search committee, even though the Senate and the executive branch have explicitly asked for a graduate student to be on the committee. They said the listening sessions would be sufficient. We had one listening session here, well, downstairs, and only one member of the search committee showed up. So they don't really care. And then they said, well, there's gonna be more listening sessions in the fall and we'll make the decision towards the end of the semester. And then halfway through the summer, they just cut short the process and they realized we actually don't need to pretend that we care about student voices. We can just move on. And I think that really highlights what's happening at this institution and it requires us to take a stance, is that there is very little consideration to what we think. And, you know, someone mentioned the nuclear option. We are there. This is something that needs to be necessary. We do need to take a firm stance. I also want to address a concern that was brought up earlier, which is that the university could try to pull the rug from under us and you know, just remove our funding and our ability to operate independently. That would be unprecedented for any institution in the United States. And if that's something that we're actually at a risk of that happening, that means we need to be acting, because these people who would be even tempted to make such a decision should not be in power. You know, I don't want to take up too much of people's time, so I'm just going to leave it at that for now, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Hashim. Is there a motion to move to discussion? Is there a second? I saw your hand first.
Public Administration. I do just want to make a quick comment on the terms of the discussion regarding the funding being pulled. It is unfortunately not unprecedented. It actually happened to my good friends over at Appalachian State just as recent as a year ago. So it has occurred, and we've had discussions. I also served in student government at East Carolina University before coming here, and that has been discussions for certain events that have happened before behind the scenes. So it definitely is always a consideration for administration. It has happened before, and I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that as a potential.
Thank you. Your hand next.
Senator Faircloth, American Studies. I just wanted to say really quickly, I appreciate and understand, and I'm speaking in favor of this this bill. I appreciate and understand the different positions that people are coming from within student government, their like interest in shared governance, the things that we want to secure for graduate students. And in response to something that Senator Omar said in the last session directly about preventing retaliation against students, I'm in American Studies, which is an extremely small department, and so I've been like lucky to work as instructor of record a lot. So I do a lot of face-to-face contact with students. A lot of my students have already been physically harmed as a result of the choices that this administration has made. So before, and I appreciate again the shared governance stuff, all of those things to me as a graduate worker here are secondary to my need to tell my students that they are physically safe and not going to be targeted with violence or harm as a result of their political affiliations or desires, which is not something that I can confidently or honestly tell my students at this point, which for me, as someone who is involved in organizing on campus that has not been treated particularly well by the university administration, I appreciate that people think we need to maybe explore other options, but from my experience with student organizations doing that kind of work over the last year, those things have not gone anywhere, unfortunately, and it might be time to consider something that I understand people might think is drastic with regard to this admin.
Go ahead, Senator.
Now Senator Elizabeth, Director of Local Relations. Going back to the point about getting the undergraduate student government to join us, you said that you had had conversations with them. I was just wondering how effective those conversations had been and if you think that is a distinct possibility, and if so, if at all, even if it was just a statement of support for our resolution, if that might be a possibility, because anything really from them, if we pass this resolution, even if they can't pass their own, might be a good option for us. And I was wondering if that was something that you had considered or could see popping up on our timeline here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ashton, respond.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like there's definitely a willingness to write the resolutions and propose them. Whether they would pass in that chamber is unclear. I do think definitely that it passing in this chamber makes it a lot more likely that a resolution like that would pass in the other chamber.
Omar?
I move to limit discussion to 15 minutes.
Is there a second? Are there objections? Seeing none.
No objections, okay,
We're
15
gonna do
minutes.
15 minutes. Hashim, I saw your hand next.
So completely tangential. I'd love to hear more about the Appalachian State thing because I tried to look it up, and I'm not implying by any means that it's not true. I'm just trying to find it, and I can't quite find it. And because that is very concerning. And that is something we should look into. Love more details on that because I couldn't find anything on the internet. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure it's real, but I'd like to know more about it. Maybe it just didn't have press coverage. But I do think there is fundamentally something happening here, which is that students have materially suffered as a result of this administration. I've seen instances where members of the administration, it was probably would have been relevant to the previous resolution, where have personally emailed students to try to intimidate them. In one instance, a student updated the Chris Clemens Wikipedia page and then got an intimidating email. These people do not behave in a way that we think a provost or a chancellor should behave. And people are being materially affected. People's livelihoods have been upended. People lost access to health insurance because of retaliation that these universities have been exacting. So pretending that, there are real consequences for passing it, there are already real consequences by this politically motivated administration. And I think that's something to keep in mind. There are people in this room who have been severely affected by this administration. So please keep that in mind as we proceed. Thank you.
Next is
Senator Harton.
Then can I see the hands before Senator Horton's? Okay. 3. Go ahead, Senator Horton.
Senator Harton on Zoom.
Looks like they're not able to use their mic. Should I read their statement for the rest of us?
Go ahead.
Joshua Harden, music. I am unable to use my microphone or camera at this time, but would like to express support for the previous concerns raised regarding adequate time to bring resolutions before graduate student constituents for their consideration. 2 days are not enough time for consideration, and I'm in a small department. While I personally support the sentiments of these resolutions, I do not feel equipped at this time to vote favorably, striving to avoid opacity and undemocratic practices. That's the end of their statement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for reading that.
Sociology.
Hi, Jacob from Sociology. Yeah, I want to echo this point that the current status quo, people are being harmed. People are being actively harmed right now. And just last week, a student who uses a wheelchair was targeted by the university, brutally pushed out of the wheelchair and phone seized. Like, this is happening right now. We saw this Chancellor Lee Roberts, when he was interim chancellor, march out onto the quad, leading police officers and others to violently attack protesters on the quad. People were pepper sprayed, people were beaten, people got concussions. There was significant repercussions for everyone involved. And this Chancellor Lee Roberts was leading the charge and doing a photo shoot with the flag for this. It's not political to say that this type of behavior should not be going on campus. That is it is out of control. That is out of control. And if we stand and I understand that there is fear of retaliation, but I think it's important to think about the people who are already being retaliated against, and it's now time we cannot be silent. We need to put this on the line to make this point. And in terms of the democratic process of this, I understand that people want more time to read, but this is a one-page resolution, and I do think that it was a sufficient amount of time to read the one-page resolution. Thank you.
Senator from American Studies. Do you have a statement? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Senator Ward from Classics. I would like to said, and also our issue over the last day, getting in touch with both faculty and students in my department to talk about this. But also, this is not a discussion that started a day ago. A lot of these points have been coming up. These are things that I was encouraged to address and bring up during my tenure in the Senate. So this is also not a new conversation. I would also like to reiterate that some of the sort of recent administrative decisions have also been targeting my students, especially students with physical disabilities who have struggled with the lockdown of buildings, enforcing one-card access. And I would also like to say that in February of 2024, the education faculty at NC State voted a no confidence resolution of the NC State chancellor and faculty. So there is a serious precedent for what is going on tonight. And it is a strong precedent. And there wasn't any immediate counter reactions or administrative punishments on that. But also I feel like if our budget and all of that is so tied up to us functionally kowtowing to the administration, then that doesn't bode well for us, and that shows that we don't really have power over that budget in the first place. Thank you.
Senator.
James Collins, City and Regional Planning. I'd like to echo Senator Ward's comments there that I had no problem sharing this with my constituents. I received nothing but support from my constituents, messages of support, indications of that. And regardless of, the arguments around partisan or political takeovers, I've seen with my own eyes the effects of how this administration, how this leadership responds to student demonstrations and student expressions. I saw a graduate student and a faculty member in my department pepper sprayed as bystanders during the demonstrations in April. And that gives me no confidence in the ability of these leaders to effectively manage student expression on a campus like UNC. Furthermore, I'm a social scientist. I'm always skeptical. I always want evidence. When I was reviewing this resolution on the SOGAPS committee, I calmly asked questions about the evidence cited and calmly received responses about that. I don't feel that I need any more evidence. I feel that I've seen, the events that have been mentioned, and how this administration, how these leaders act. Thank you.
I move the previous question.
You moving the question? Is there a second on the question? Second on the question. Any objection to moving the question? Which means it's going to just go to vote. Anyone has an objection to it?
Objection.
Okay, there is an objection. As there's an objection, now we have to call for the vote. We'll do votes in the hand. Everyone who's raised your hand. Thanks. All right, Mandy, do you want to take your hand down for a second so this way we can do the vote? I've got you guys in the queue for the questions if we don't pass. All those who are in favor of moving the question, raise your hands. Okay, all those who raised your hand, go ahead and put them down. Just waiting for those on Zoom. Go ahead, unraise your hand.
Senator Strauss, Goose. Thank you.
Okay, all those opposed, raise your hands. One. Okay, anyone who's abstaining? Okay, motion passes. Next up on the agenda is?
Next up is the act to approve the Solicitor General Act, as we tabled that.
That should be on your desktop.
Desktop?
Yeah, should be open in a Word doc.
Stop sharing. Is this one?
Yeah, 13.
Okay. that the correct one? That's the correct one. Yep. I'll hand it over to Katie. Speak. Okay.
Are there any questions? And this is just the change from making sure that it said rules and judiciary as the group who reviewed it. Does anybody have any questions on 55013? The combining? Go ahead, Emma.
Around linguistics, I sort of have a series of questions. Hopefully the first one will answer everything else. Is this a motion to, like, an act to make it that whoever is appointed to one is the other, or is it simply an act saying that you could have the same person in both roles, but you could also have two separate people?
It just makes it so that if you want to, you can have the same person in both. It doesn't have to be.
So following up on that, in ideal circumstances, would these be two different people, or would these be one individual who's qualified for both?
To the ideal scenario, given that we have never, in my time here, had someone in either position. So I think it just sort of lets us have some flexibility. I'm usually one to try to leave things more flexible than less flexible, in my experience with code writing, but either way.
Are there any other questions? Is there a motion to, you have another question?
So the reason we're not just combining these into one role is to allow for future administrations to keep them as separate roles should two individuals arise who want to do these jobs.
Exactly. I think that's the idea. And I think that ever seen someone in these positions, I didn't feel comfortable writing them into the same thing because maybe there's something I don't understand and we're going to get into this and go, well, that was a terrible idea and we can fix it. But for now, this is left over from before we were even GPSF, like many years ago, these two positions. It also, the other one benefit is that it mirrors the system that the undergraduate student government has, which generally can be beneficial, especially in like legal things with the student Supreme Court. So just another thought.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Is there a motion to end discussion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Are there any objections? Yes, that is it for legislation, and we will get back to the slide deck in a second. We already talked about that. Yeah.
It was the bill following it. It was this one that table.
55-14 is the one for, is it Sabina, correct? Oh. And okay. Now we are going to vote on legislation. You can see on Heal Life, you can either click the QR code, click the link. You should see it on the front of Heal Life for voting. If you have issues, please raise your hand and one of us will come help you. But while voting is going on, I'm going to give you a couple seconds and then we will go through updates. Emma.
So the link takes me to the Heal Life main page. Where from there do I go to find where to vote?
Okay. It wasn't? Okay. I thought I said it.
Sorry, before we begin voting, I do have a question. Is it possible for me to make a motion regarding the means of voting on particular bills? And if so, would now be the time for me to do so? Or should I have done that when we were during discussion of the bills?
What exactly, could you explain what exactly you are trying to do, and then we can better answer your question.
I was interested in putting forth a motion to vote on the two no confidence resolutions via roll call vote.
I units.
Is that possible for me to do?
So I'll say, just as a point of information, all of the votes are public record and they are being recorded in a voting log. So every vote that each unit has is being recorded. So afterwards, right, we could give you the equivalent of a roll call vote. So like, we'll be able to see what each unit voted. So I don't know if that changes your opinion of whether or not you want to do the motion.
Okay, yes, that was my concern, was just to make sure that there was like an open record of voting by the units. So in that case, I withdraw my question.
I had a point of clarification. I've been talking to the provost. This is Lauren Brackley from Biostatistics, and he actually suggested doing a closed vote because he sent me like this article from Dartmouth University where people were also trying to pass a no confidence resolution, and there was a concern about people getting doxxed because of the way that they voted. So I would suggest that we do not do a roll call vote.
Seeing as I don't think there's any motion, I think we're good to go.
Are people able to vote?
Anyone having any trouble? Okay.
I still cannot see where to vote. I'm on the Heal Life page, but it's not showing up for me. Oh, actually, I lied. I can see it now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Nothing like having it solve for you while you're in the middle of a chat. Okay, I think, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Saying that even if it's not a roll call vote, the results are public though?
They are.
Yes, we have to follow all the rules of open meetings. So yeah, all votes are recorded.
Yeah.
No way that we can address the doxing concerns. There's no like, it's state law.
Yeah, as we're a public organization, like these meetings are recorded, uploaded to YouTube. Everything we do here is public information and can be requested. Katie.
I'll add as well that all since we are part of this. We are also all, like any student government proceedings are also could be asked for a public records request. So any email that any of us send related to GPSG, any communications, that kind of thing is public record and could be requested at any time as by state law. So just so everyone knows that that's just sort of built into and that's true for both everybody that works at the university.
Ashwin, yep.
So is it per unit that it's recorded in the legislative log, not per name, correct?
Yeah, is it residential unit or
Yeah.
representative unit? Yeah.
So, but since on the website, since your name is associated with your unit.
Okay, I think we're ready for updates from student body president.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
There is only one vote per unit. So if you have two senators, make sure you talk and decide what you're going to vote on. If we receive two votes that are different, that complicates things greatly. So please make sure you're talking with each other, whether that's on text, whether it's on Zoom. Please just one vote. If seeing no more questions, we're going to move to updates from student body president Julia or Julia's representative.
I believe Julia said that they're online.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Is everyone able to hear me?
We are.
Okay, great. Sorry, I have been shifting between two meetings. I'm sure you all know that undergraduate senate also is going on right now, and that started at 7:37, kind of swapping between both. But really enjoyed listening to you all's conversation today on the two resolutions. We'll be interested to see the direction of those. But I just wanted to provide a few updates. So the Office of Admissions and Enrollment at the past Board of Trustees meeting, which was September 16th through 17th, they gave an update on enrollment, which I talked about a couple of weeks ago at the last Senate meeting, but there really wasn't any sort of update or information about, the graduate representation and how graduate students were affected by the removal of DE&I as well as the removal of affirmative action. So me, myself, and my team and some graduate representatives, Ivy, we will be meeting with the Office of Admissions / Enrollment next Monday to discuss any sort of strategic ways to make sure that the minority enrollment is up and consistent and present. The next thing I wanted to mention is that the executive branch hosted an orientation 2 Sundays ago, and it was just a great opportunity to meet members of the branch and to kind of just have some discourse on a few topics. The third thing that I would like to share is that we have been launching a food insecurity survey. So pretty much the gist is that student meal swipes go and use at the end of every semester. And we've created this survey to determine if a meal swipe donation plan could help mitigate food insecurity on campus. So I've shared this over with Katie and Nicholas, as well as William, but please recommend taking this survey. It'll provide us lots of data and insight when we give a presentation to the Board of Trustees soon. And I've just put the link in the chat for those that are joining on Zoom. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is that a student success committee has been formed. I found out about this committee very last minute, but it is being chaired by Provost Clemens and Dr. Cox. I have sent a representative and have asked Katie if she can send a graduate representative, but pretty much the focus of this committee is to discuss well-being days and to connect any missing pieces that have been left from DE and I being gone. And so I've heard that kind of they're focusing on the undergrads in this committee, but they're welcoming any graduate representation as they will be moving to then focus on the graduate school and forming another student success committee there. So those are just my updates. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Julia. Please do share this survey with your constituents. The link is right below it. I've already looked through this. This is an amazing survey. So thank you for putting it together.
Put it all in the after session.
Yeah, and this will go out for in the announcements so that you can send it more easily to your constituents. Next, we're going to go to the updates from Katie, President Katie Heath. You can.
All right. There were a lot of things. So I have a lot of updates, and I decided that instead of boring you all on just me going over like 50 things every single time, I think I'm just going to try to like do some chunks every single meeting. And so here's my chunk. The first thing is the Graduate Student Experience Initiative is a committee that has over 100 graduate students, faculty, and staff administrators on it that is being housed within the the graduate school, and is, I think, one of the potentially most productive committees that we have ever seen in terms of graduate student change actually happening on campus. I cannot express to you enough how incredible it is that this committee was formed last year and the work that they've already managed to do and are continuing to do. This group, to start with, I don't know if any of you were able to go to the TA training that was held over the summer. That's the first time we've done that, and that was specifically organized and created because of this graduate student experience. There's a survey. I'm gonna have a couple surveys to tell you about. There's a very large survey that is gonna be coming out of this group sometime mid this month. And this is gonna be a survey that is surveying stipends across basically all graduate professional students, working conditions as an RA and as a TA. It's probably going to come. I don't know the dates yet exactly. I think that they're still ironing it out. It's going to be sometime the end of this month. I think that this is probably one of the most important surveys that has ever been done. I shouldn't say that, in the last few years in terms of graduate and professional students, because this is going to allow us to quantify where we're at with stipends, how we can get stipend increases, where we're at in terms of mentor-mentee relationships, what kind of conflict mediation we need, what kind of interventions are needed for graduate and professional students to directly affect the mental health needs that students have. I think that I genuinely really believe that this is going to have a very large impact. And so when you see this, we'll probably bother you about it a lot. Please send it to your constituents because I think that this is going to be very impactful. There are other there's quite a few subcommittees. Another one of the committees is also working directly on something called individual development plans and mentor-mentee agreements, which are basically going to be documents that graduate students would work on with their advisors, upload to Connect Carolina every year as kind of like a check-in with the university on like, how's it going? What's your plan? That type of thing. They have a lot of other things they're working on. Those are just some highlights. But you're going to be hearing from that group a lot. And I sit on the steering committee. We have a representative, I believe, on nearly every single committee. And I think that it is going to be really impactful. I also wanted to touch on the hurricane relief efforts at the university. I think that is directly affected a really large number of our graduate and professional students. And personally, like I recognize that there's just a lot going on right now, like in life, and obviously a natural disaster on top of that can be very difficult. And even if you're not directly affected, it can be very emotional and feel like something. A lot of people are telling me that they really feel like they want to do something about this, and we are hearing that. And my goal is that over the coming weeks and or months, we are going to be organizing opportunities for graduate professional students to volunteer here and potentially also in Eastern Carolina. We're trying to directly coordinate both with UNC and the Carolina Center for, oh, I lost the acronym. Does anyone remember? Public Service, thank you. The Carolina Center for Public Service, which is coordinating a lot of the university's efforts on this. I'm going to be putting out a statement to all graduate professional students this week, so it's going to have a lot more details, but I just wanted you all to know that that's something that we're thinking about and going to be working on pretty immediately. There's a couple of events coming up that I wanted to highlight. One is our financial wellness series that's going to be ongoing over the course of the semester. This is the first time we've done something like this, and it's basically a series dedicated to different topics related to financial wellness that is specifically geared towards graduate and professional students. So I think the next slide talks about exactly what it is, so I won't double up on that. We have a wellness fair that is coming up on October 29th. We've done this in the past. It's a really cool event. You can make appointments to come. There are massage chairs available. There's puppies to come pet. There's going to be free food, a lot of resources. It's kind of just a fun day to come learn about the different kind of resources and things we have on campus. We're also going to have some volunteer opportunities. I forgot to put that link in the slide, but it's going to be in your announcements specifically for you as senators to volunteer to be a part of that wellness fair. That volunteering counts as participation points. Those participation points directly turn into money for your allocations that you then get at the end of the semester and the end of the year for your unit. So volunteering is cool because you get money for your unit. So I will be sending out opportunities for that and some other things coming up as well. So please keep an eye on that. And then the last thing is we had our second grad cafe today. We're having another one in November, which is just a really cool social event that we do in partner with the graduate school where we give out free food, talk to students. So come to those because bagels are delicious. Keep going. I'll also, this isn't really mine, but I'll talk about it anyway. So the next part is just updates from the executive branch. All of the executive members fill out monthly reports, and a report has been generated that's in Canvas for all of you to see basically what has the executive branch been working on over the past month. We did one last month, we did one this month. I recommend looking at it. It's a really nice short way to just get an idea of what we're working on. But there were a couple of announcements specifically from boards, the board that I wanted to highlight. If you can go to the next slide, yeah. Here's more information about that financial wellness workshop. The next one's going to be about investing tips and tools. I think it's going to be really cool. I'm going to try to go because I don't know anything about this. So there is also going to be lunch provided. Again, RSVP. It's going to be a really wonderful event. We had a very good turnout at the first event. These are going to be ongoing with different topics over the year. We'll send this out in the announcements. A couple more things. Apply for external appointments. We still have a good number of external appointments that still need to be filled. We very frequently have those be filled by graduate students, obviously graduate students, senators, and you get participation points for that also. A lot of external appointments are 1 to 2 meetings per year. So they're not that much. You get more money for your unit. It's a really good idea. There's a couple other announcements. I recommend you just read over these. The academic affairs survey that Neil mentioned at the beginning, there's a link here. Again, it'll also be in the announcements, is going to be there. Go to the next section for me. Yep, and the last one I particularly wanted to highlight is just a reminder. We had that whole conversation at the beginning with our wonderful speaker about voter registration, voter IDs. We're going to be sending this in our announcements that we recommend you send to your constituents, this information as well. There's just been a lot of changes about student IDs and voter IDs. And so we're just trying to help people have an understanding of where we are now and what it is that you can do in order to be sure that you can have a voter ID. Cool, that's it. Are there any questions?
I do have a question. I feel like it was 2 hours ago, someone mentioned there was a poll or a survey and they said the link was in the notes. Is this notes or?
Yes, that survey, this is this one, number 3 right here.
Number 3. Cool, thank you.
I realize I'm speeding through these pretty quickly for the sake of time. Yeah, this is the survey. It's related to gauging how specifically the Director of Academic Affairs and his team can look to support students. So there's a link right there. And again, don't feel like you need to take a screenshot. We will send all of this to you in an email. Other questions? Neil, yeah.
Neil did want to speak on the financial wellness series.
If I could just add a little bit more substance
Go
to
ahead.
it, if that's okay. But first of all, again, President Heath, thank you so much for your guidance and support. And Vice President Boyer, congratulations again. Senators, good evening. My name is Neil Sharma, and I'm the Director of Academic Affairs. And as always, I'm at your service. I want to begin by thanking you all for supporting the previous financial wellness event on budgeting tools and sending out all those invitations to your constituents. We had almost a full house, 30 people. We have room for a little bit more. And I know from our exit survey that it was popular and tackled key issues that graduates face every day. So we have a bigger space now, and with 80% of graduates requesting this option in our exit survey, by popular demand, our second event will focus, as President Heath mentioned, investing strategies. And this will cover saving accounts, certificates of deposit, government bonds, index funds and ETFs, money market accounts, and a lot more. So I personally believe these are all tools and resources that are necessary to build towards graduate financial independence, which is why Dr. Gilbert Rogers, the new director of the Carolina Financial Wellness Center, will join and lead this event since he has previous expertise in financial planning and investing. So please do scan that QR code to sign up. I'll put the link in the chat as well, and please do continue to share this with your constituents. Again, this will be October 23rd, 11 a.m., Carolina Union 3205. Just so happens to be the day of my birthday as well. And remember also, we'll have lunch from Brandwine's Bagels, which I hear is a classic as well. So would love to have you all, and thank you again for everything that you do.
Thank you, Neil. Are there any other executive committee members that have an update for us? If not, we will move on. Seeing none. Updates from committee chairs. We don't have an oversight and accountability update, but you saw most of our updates. We passed all these bills. And as of tonight after the meeting, we're going to ask oversight and accountability and travel awards to gather up here to make sure they all have their contact information. Let's go with appropriations.
So a few updates from appropriations that are sort of kind of new this year. We have placed a limit on food costs to $15 per attendee. So you can get food from wherever, but if it does cost more than $15 per attendee, you will be covering any of the overages. So that is just one thing that I do want to make note of for people. And then secondly, we recommend that all applicants review the funding restrictions via the GPSG code, which includes limits that are set by the finance office, including the limits on travel and hotel. For example, speakers coming to Chapel Hill in 2024, 2025, hotel rates cannot exceed $140. So again, you can put them up in whatever hotel you choose, but we can only fund up to $140. You would cover the rest. Cool, thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Let's go with R&J.
Margaret Hook, Biostatistics Chair of R&J. This month we met and we discussed the Solicitor General / that other position bill. Sorry, reaching the end of anyway, whatever. And talked about expectations for the committee. And if anybody in looking at the code or reviewing the code finds something, let me know, because we'll be doing our code review starting at the beginning of next semester. So always happy to be pointed in the right direction for that.
Thank you for that. Travel awards, Nick, do you have any more updates, or we just saw them all?
I don't know if there's any other members here. Go
Okay.
ahead if you have one.
At this time, we don't have any updates, just the next deadline for travel award applications is in the agenda. Just share that with your constituents and reach out to us if you have any questions.
Thank you. And other committee chairs? Chair?
Yeah, do you have the slide?
I do.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So this is Jerry Valenzuela, biomedical engineering. As you guys know, town halls, we need to do them as soon as possible. The deadline for it is not the end of the legislative session. It has to be done by the end of the semester. But SOGAPS has already updated all of the resources in the Canva page. You can find it in town hall resources. Especially if you're a new senator and have not held a town hall, that is fine. All of those resources outline everything that you guys need to know, all the resources that we expect you to share to your constituents, along with anything else that you feel is pertinent. The biggest change is that we also up the allocation that we give for town halls, especially for requesting funding. $150 or less, you just have to submit the town hall notice and funding request, which everybody has to submit. But for more than 150, I believe you have to notify us, and we have to work with the finance committee to approve of your town hall. But just TLDR, please start this now. The form for town hall notice and funding is now live in the Heal Life. And if you have any questions, please contact SOGAS committee, and we have a question.
Samantha Beck from Pathology. If we have already submitted our town hall request for the previous limit of 120, just to try and get it pushed through quicker, would we be able to either amend or redo it or something to get the full 150?
I believe we can do that. I am actually confused on how you're able to do that. I did have to update the town hall notice and funding request to a 2024 version. You might have filled out a older form that I have just archived recently. So if you can, is it possible, like, if for those people who have done that, just to resubmit the form?
So any form that we've submitted for town hall already, we have to refill out?
Just because I'm not aware of any other town, or at least like the town hall form that was on Heal Life already was the one from like I guess from the previous session. So yeah, that was at least like my understanding that SOGAPS would like create a new town hall.
Ren linguistics. I am on the finance committee, but I am not the chair. That is Leah Frazier over there. But I can confirm I checked the form today for the town hall submissions. If you have submitted something, it is not there. There are no submissions there. Please go and resubmit unless I am just incapable of checking forms.
Lauren first.
I also submitted the form the same that she did. So I have confusion. Where is the correct link? Can you distribute that again, please?
Yes, so it is going to be on Heal Life. If you submitted it prior to Monday, there's now a 2024 town hall notice and funding request. Previously, there was just a town hall notice and funding request, but that one was from the previous legislative session, and we have now archived that. So if you have submitted something there, unfortunately, that has just been archived, and we are now, because like the form was technically not live, we've just like created it like this week. That is why we're if you have submitted it, notice of funding request, we would like you to just resubmit it again.
Any
Hi,
other-
this is Callista Strauss from the law school. I was on the finance committee last year, and I actually do have access to the forms that were submitted prior. So I can get those to y'all who need them if that would work, just so they don't have to resubmit them.
Yeah, I think that's fine, and then we can just like look and see how the forms are different. And if there are any additional questions that we need to ask the people that have already submitted the form, we'll just do that.
Leah Frazier, Finance Chair. I would like them to just resubmit it, please, since we gave them more money. Please use the money that we approved to be added on there. Also, for those of you who are asking more than $150, we're gonna be looking at it on a weekly basis to approve those forms to get it out to you really quickly.
That's fine with SOGAPs then. So if you filled it out already, fill it out again. It's pretty short.
Leah, did you have any other financial? I was going to leave you to last.
I mean, outside of that, all we did was the appropriations in our last Senate meeting, but outside of that, no.
Thank you. Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and send the links out to make everything easier for people, and we'll do that as soon as possible. Next is going to be, we'll just go ahead and say that the next GPSG Senate meeting will be in the School of Government. We will get the room number to y'all as soon as possible. And there are, as you can see, there are more deadlines, GPSG appropriations for events between November 13th and December 10th. Applications are due by the 25th of October. And if you're attending a conference in December, apply by the 1st of November. Before we go to results, I just have one last thing. I just want to thank y'all for bearing with me this evening. Again, I've been in this role now for like a couple hours, but officially, one of the reasons we were behind on sending out bills and things, I got access to the email on Friday, so I was only able to see the multiple emails that were in the inbox on Friday, so I spent all of that time over the weekend trying to get everything out, and still one thing slipped through the cracks. So we will be continually working harder and working to make sure everything runs smoothly. But now we're going to go to announce the results from the ballot voting, and I'll turn that over to someone. I'll turn it over to Katie. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Nick.
Hey, everyone. As of right now, all the legislation has passed tonight.
Before everybody stands up and leaves, is there a motion to end the meeting?
Moved.
Any objections?
Brian.
Take food with you.
Please.
8:36.
Thank you. And while y'all are packing up, I do have one last thing. If y'all are not accessing Canvas, if y'all are not accessing anything like that, please do contact me via email. If you contacted Xavier about it, I am not Xavier. So please do contact me and I will get that fixed as soon as possible. Also, if you're not on our email list because our roster is not complete, please come talk to me. I will be here after the meeting. And again, please take food.
Everyone, make sure you're taking food. Make sure you clean up after yourselves. If anyone's having any trouble getting access to Canvas or emails, email myself or William Boyer. Have a good night.